Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Awakened His Sacred Gear in Childhood and Become the Strongest Part 6. Before we start, please go support Ryujin99 for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. This is the translated version I made. There will be some wrong he or she calling here because it's translated, so let me clear this. Issei is a male in this story. Chapter 35. Start the cap. Lots of white and gold. The day was the day. The group representing the Biblical Alliance would finally have their audience with the gods of Olympus. You know, Greek gods are kind of smug. Isay saw the great giant building made of white marble, large white columns, a ceiling with golden touches and 3 golden statues representing the gods Zeus, Hades and Poseidon with their respective divine weapons. Next to the chestnut tree was an imperturbable Griselda, a calm Dulio and a nervous Ravel. The group of 4 were being guided by the god Hermes, who had a very unfriendly look and from time to time sent annoyed glances to Isay, who ignored him. You know that the male gods of Greek mythology are portrayed as beings without genitals in human stories. Isay commented in a funny way. Is that why they messed with humans so much? Rias asked himself, but it was a difficult answer to answer. Isay looked slightly at Ravel because she was very nervous. You shouldn't be so nervous, Isay said to the blonde phoenix. I'm not nervous. Just excited, if that, excited about the meeting, Ravel said, trying to sound confident. Calm down. If they miss the mark, I'll activate the Juggernaut and destroy everything, said Isay in an attempt to calm Ravel. That doesn't help. And wouldn't you have to be nervous or angry because you have to do that for them to accept? Ravel said, forgetting her nervousness for a few moments. I may not show it, but I'm really furious, Isay whispered as her eyes shone for a moment. Dulio and Griselda were serious. The courier mission may turn into a deadly battle. Ravel shuddered when he saw the brunette's look. She was afraid that everything would go wrong. The group continued to advance in silence up the large stairs until they reached a large door that seemed to be made of gold. And more gold. Isay sighed at how self-centered the gods were. Hermes approached the large door and with a simple push opened it and proceeded to enter. The alliance group moved forward slowly, carefully looking at the surroundings. They were in a small hallway, at the end of which a large white glow could be seen. Get ready, Rias warned. She could clearly sense the 10 divine presences in the next room. She prepares that. With the chestnut tree's mental order, the celestial dragon prepared to start a contingency plan in case things got ugly. The group continued advancing in silence. They were about to enter the large room. A sudden shudder attacked the brunette. She could feel the divine pressure that fell on his shoulders. She looked at the blonde phoenix and saw how she was shaking and sweating. Griselda looked at her. She seemed calm, but she could see a little tremor in her hand that she quickly controlled. She looked at Dulio, and he seemed completely calm. He let out a silent sigh, looked at Ravel, and he was still shaking. Do it. Rolling his eyes at Rias's insistence, the brunette took Ravel's trembling hand. She was excited for a moment but then clung to Isay's hand, who felt the blonde's nervousness go down a little. I'm just doing it to help her. Don't think it's because she worries me. What you say? Isay shook his head a little and paid attention to his surroundings. The room was big, very big, golden pillars, white floor with golden details. These are fans of white and gold. He looked forward and saw 12 seats, 4 in the middle, 4 on the right side and another 4 on the left. 3 of the 4 central seats were occupied. In one there was a man who looked about 30 years old, with brown hair, light blue eyes, a slight well-cut beard, and he was dressed in those typical tunics that barely covered up the important aspects of ancient Greece. In the other seat there was another man. This one also looked about 30 years old, white hair, blue eyes, long beard the same color as his hair, Greek tunic and gold bracelets. In the seat next to the white-haired man was a woman. She looked about 20 or 25 years old, had long dark hair, blue eyes, and was wearing a long blue tunic. The 4th seat was empty. The brunette was going to go see the other seats, but the white-haired man caught attention. Welcome to Olympus, biblical representatives. I am the god king of Greek mythology, Zeus. The now Zeus spoke calmly. Nice to meet you. I am Griselda Quarta, representative of the angels belonging to the Biblical Alliance. Next to me is Dulio Gesualdo, also an angel. Griselda spoke while making a small bow. Dulio only greeted with a carefree smile. They are our companions. Ravel Phoenix belonging to the demonic faction of the Alliance. There is also Hyoudou Issei. Current Red Emperor Celestial Dragon. He is also a pillar that unites 2 sides of the angels, the fallen and the pure angels, Griselda said again, pointing to both young people. A rather strange and contradictory hybrid. Commented the woman next to Zeus. Fallen and angel. That's impossible. I can clearly feel your demonic aura, spoke the brunette next to Zeus in a boring way. At the glance. The secret. Isay sighed. His long-pressed secret was discovered. Well, it was Azazel's fault. I would like us to move on to the topic why we came here. Griselda spoke although she was curious about what the brown god who she assumed was Poseidon said. It's true. They are here for something quite curious. Spoke a woman sitting in a seat on the right side. Said woman had white hair, blue eyes and was dressed in light armor, two short swords sheathed on her hips, and she looked curiously at those present from the alliance, especially at Isay. Athena is right. Let's finish this because I have better things to do this time. Another woman spoke, but sitting on the left side. As you may have already seen in the statement that I gave to Mr. Hermes the day we met, the leaders of the Biblical Alliance expressed their desire for you to attend the event that will be held in the underworld on Saturday. Through this event they want to establish communications with you so we can share information, Griselda began to say in a professional manner. Information? What kind? Athena asked. I don't know if you have had contact with them until now, but the information we offer is from a terrorist organization made up of multiple races and beings from different pantheons. This organization is led by the dragon god of infinity, Ophis Ouroboros, Griselda answered. In a serious way. The gods looked at each other upon hearing Ophis's name, some whispering to each other and others looking disinterested. If they only knew that Ophis is barely leading the brigade. Isay watched carefully at the gods who were whispering among themselves. Zeus was talking to the woman next to him, her expression was serious. Although the terrorist organization until now always attacked the biblical factions, they have recently launched attacks against other pantheons, among them is Asgard, which were attacked a few days after the public revelation of the terrorist organization. They also attacked the Yokai faction belonging to the Shinto. The details of those events and others of lesser importance, but equally worrying, will be discussed on the day of the event to which they have been invited, added Griselda. There were more attacks. The brunette questioned, Azazel had not told him anything. Well, he is hardly interested in those matters. Father. I think it would be prudent to attend that event. Athena spoke, drawing the attention of the others. I disagree. That matter belongs to other mythologies, we don't have to get involved in other people's conflicts, spoke a man with black hair, red eyes, quite voluminous black armor, and a large sword resting on the armrest of his seat. For now. I prefer to have as much information as possible about this organization to have an idea of what we may face, Athena said seriously to the man. If they dare to confront us. Said the same man in an amused tone. They would be facing some of the most dangerous longiness. Isay spoke for the first time. All attention went to Isay, who was internally nervous but controlled it well. Those defective tools that the old man from the Bible left behind. Said the man who had been questioning Athena ironically. Those defective tools can kill you. Said Isay seriously. Griselda and Ravel's breathing stopped for a few moments when they heard what the brunette said. I don't care about those trinkets, the god said angrily as he released his aura against Isay, who did his best to hold it in. I would like to see you face one of them at full power. The boosted gear made its presence felt and was immediately used in the form of a shield to stop a downward slash from the black-haired man's great sword. Watch your tone. Dragon, the man whispered, pressing against the brunette who could barely stand. Ares Zeus spoke with a serious tone. The now named Ares huffed and returned to his seat. They almost cut you in half. Rias sighed. Luckily he was able to react in time and force the boosted gear to appear and protect the brunette. And my big mouth. How it hurts. The brunette's left arm was shaking from the blow. Lucky it didn't break. I was right, lucky it didn't break. Isay-sama. Ravel whispered with concern. Back on topic. I understand how vital the information is, but I would like to know if there is anything else we can benefit from. Poseidon spoke. Well. I would have to talk to the superiors about that, said Griselda, and Poseidon put on a poker face. Fallen angels and some demons may be very interested in the company of a god, especially if he is a famous one, said the brunette after recovering. Griselda and Ravel looked at him with surprise, they couldn't believe that the brunette had said that. Most of the male gods, except one, looked interested when they heard the chestnut tree's words. Athena raised an eyebrow and looked at the brunette intensely. On the other hand, the woman next to Zeus shook his head as she sighed. Men. Isay-sama. That was. Ravel whispered to the brunette. We have to negotiate. I almost screwed up and now it's better to go the other way, the brunette whispered, making the blonde see him in a new light. Could it be the whisper of the devil? By the way, the little son has been sending you a murderous look since the talk started, Rias said. The brunette looked slightly at the god who was looking at him intensely. It was Helios, the divine problem that has been screwing him since he arrived in Greece with that stupid apology. Luckily no one has brought it up yet. They will also have first-hand information that the Biblical Alliance does not yet know. Said the brunette, ignoring Griselda's serious look. And why hasn't the dragon of the biblical faction told that information to his superiors? Athena asked curiously. No idea. Maybe he forgot me. The brunette shrugged his shoulders, saying accept and I'll tell you. Aren't you going to save that information for future extortion? Everything is so that the issue of the damn apology does not come to light. Rias rolled his eyes inside the sacred gear, his companion was something special when he wanted it. And how do I know that this information is true? Asked this time a woman with brown hair and green eyes who looked at the brunette seriously. Because I belong to said terrorist organization, answered the brunette, earning the gaze of all the gods. Dryag hit his forehead for what the brunette said. Shit. Too late, the brunette realized that he said something wrong. Chapter 36, Start the cap, he had screwed up a lot. Well. Didn't you want to divert the topic of the apology? Well, it's already done. Even though he had said a joke, the heavenly dragon was worried. Her idiot partner had screwed up badly by saying that she belonged to the Chaos Brigade. My lady wasn't lying when she said the boy was special. Griselda put her hand on her forehead as she denied. Things were already tense, and now the brunette made it even more tense. What will I eat tomorrow? Julio was in his world, as if he didn't care that he was surrounded by gods who were very serious. It's the end. Ravel was not holding his head because his body was still not responding from the shock that the brunette had caused when he released his tongue. Is it too late to go? The brunette wondered. Currently cursing his talking then thinking quirk. That's curious. I would like to know why you say that so lightly, asked the goddess of wisdom, looking curiously at the brunette. She didn't know if he was very brave for speaking and behaving like that or if he was very stupid. Would you believe me if I told you it was to get attention? The brunette whispered, his poker face did not hide his nervousness. Haha brother, this boy is very funny, Poseidon exclaimed while he laughed in his seat. I would say stupid. Commented the goddess Artemis. So a terrorist? Whispered the goddess Hestia sitting next to Zeus. So? If we interrogate you we could know everything about that organization. Said the god Ares while he smiled amused. I remind you that the red celestial emperor dragon is in the biblical alliance, said Griselda, swallowing her nervousness. And I remind you that you are in a room with gods and in our territory. Hermes said seriously. Excuse me. Dulio spoke for the first time. Everyone in the room paid attention to the angel. We only came to deliver the invitation, and we already did it. What my colleagues are doing now is giving them incentives to accept, but we are not obliged to go begging for things. That's why we left since this conversation is not going anywhere. Productive side Griselda saw her lazy partner in a new light. It's true. We will think about your proposals. I estimate that tomorrow afternoon you will have the answer, Zeus spoke, surprising half of the gods who looked at their leader in disbelief. Will you just let them go? Asked a curious and angry Helios. As the representative of Los Angeles said, they only came to deliver the message, and the talk we are currently having is not taking us anywhere, clarified the god of lightning. We are leaving without further words. The laziest angel in heaven proceeded to walk to the exit. He was quickly followed by Griselda and then Isay, who had to drag Ravel with him. The room fell silent as they watched a large door close after the representatives of the biblical alliance left. This is unheard of. The god Helios' aura exploded as he sent an annoyed look at Zeus, who was unfazed by the outburst. Any problem? Zeus asked. Many, answered Helios. I remind you that the red dragon is untouchable. It is an order for everyone present. You can leave, the god of lightning said and ordered. Everyone, except Poseidon, Hestia and Zeus, disappeared in his own way, some bored, others angry and others thoughtful. Why the sudden change? Poseidon asked, looking at his brother who was looking at the place where those of the biblical alliance were previously. We were threatened, responded the god of lightning. By whom and why? Hestia asked calmly. The Shinto threatened to attack and eliminate Olympus if we did anything to the celestial dragon. My pride is damaged, but it was the best decision for the survival of Olympus, said Zeus seriously and confidently. Bad choice, annoying, but good. We are not currently in the best moment, said Poseidon as he sighed. Our followers continue to decrease. The power we possess is not enough to face one of the largest pantheons today. It was a good decision, brother, and I am proud that you have thought about the consequences. Hestia smiled as she placed her hand on his younger brother's shoulder. The dragon boy is interesting. There is something about him that doesn't convince me, and I'm not saying this because of the sacred gear he has. Poseidon commented, remembering that something inside the chestnut tree stood out. His soul is marked. I don't know why or by whom, but that must be why Hades was so focused on claiming his soul, said Hestia thinking about the brunette. I imagined something different. They had already left Olympus. They were currently at the hotel where they were staying, and night was about to fall. I thought I had to fight. So much excitement for nothing. Anyway, it's not that I was complaining, Isay commented while he was lying in his room. The confrontation was expected. He had prepared to unleash blows from all sides. He thought that with the blow he received from Ares things were going to get serious, but everything went quite calmly. It still hurts. The arm that was hit by the war god's sword still hurt. He was lucky that the boosted gear protected him from more serious damage, but he was still resentful, and it hurt when he moved it. You're lucky that your body got used to the normal blows of a half-powered god, and your hybrid situation helped your resistance more. Dryag was right. His body had received many blows from when he faced Loki, and his body got a little used to those monstrous blows, but they still hurt a lot. Ah. I want to go home now, said the brunette while he sighed. By the way, are you going to the event? The brunette stared at the ceiling, thinking about his dragon companion's question. They will probably ask me to be there. I also have to go to Ravel's house because I told him I would go. He stretched out, careful not to cause any more discomfort with his left arm, and sat on the edge of the bed. True. The date with its sundeer. The dragon let out a laugh to annoy his companion who sighed. It's not a date. He muttered Brown as he stood up, he wanted to move his body a little. Thank you for your purchase, exclaimed a seller while greeting the chestnut tree who was slowly leaving the store. He was hanging around Athens since tomorrow is supposedly the last day there. In the end we couldn't try it. Rias commented while Isay looked at the number of people there, even though it was already night. Don't worry, we will have a chance sooner or later. Knowing his luck, he knew that at any moment he could use his new trick. He walked slowly through the busy streets of Athens. From time to time he saw some groceries he was missing or bought a new snack. Isay the brunette stopped when he was called. He looked around and saw that a smiling Dulio was greeting him from a place. With a sigh, the brunette approached the angel. I thought you were at the hotel, Dulio said as he pointed to a seat next to him for the brunette to sit. I wanted to move a little, and I took advantage since we will be leaving soon, said Isay, as he watched the angel devour the food they had brought him. That's good, I thought everyone would be serious about today's meeting, said the angel after swallowing his food. It wasn't that serious. Isay commented as he moved his left arm a little. You're right, it wasn't that serious, Dulio said smiling. This guy is very carefree. Rias commented as he saw through Isay how the angel continued eating. He must be very powerful for him to be this calm, he has even been very calm in the meeting. Here you go, the brunette came out of his thoughts when he saw how a waitress brought him a large plate of spaghetti. I didn't order it. Isay said, but Dulio made a sign for the waitress to leave him. They told me that the noodles at this place are very good, said the smiling angel. Well. I took advantage of it, smiling slightly, the brunette prepared to eat. It's a bottomless barrel. Said Isay as he let out a sigh. He had eaten a lot and was now slowly returning to the hotel to put down the food. Dulio had stayed in the restaurant, eating as if his life depended on it. Buddy. Isay's senses became alert, someone or something was stalking him. A very familiar sensation ran through his body. The barrier. Alarmed, he looked around him and realized that there were no humans, and he could not sense the supernatural presences either. The boosted gear was present while the brunette went into guard. I don't understand why Zeus doesn't allow us to touch you, but that doesn't matter to me. A wave of heat attacked the brunette. He quickly looked up from him, and there he saw him. Helios. Said Isay as he saw the god standing on a building in front of him. Where is Isay-sama? Ravel asked as he returned from the brunette's room. I think she came out. Said Griselda while she was sitting on the living room couch and watching TV. Hello, the door suddenly opened and the angel Dulio entered. Where were you? Griselda asked as she turned off the TV. The usual, said Dulio calmly, and Griselda sighed. Mr. Dulio, have you seen Isay-sama? Ravel asked the angel. She's not here. Half an hour ago she was with me eating something, she said she was going to the hotel, Dulio said curiously. Well, she hasn't appeared here, said Griselda Syria. Ravel frowned. Where was his Isay-sama? He was having a bad time, very bad. Concentrate energy in your lungs, throat and nose so you can breathe, Rias advised seriously as he prepared the chestnut ace. Listening to the dragon, he proceeded to concentrate energy in the places told by the dragon. Stabilized oxygen level. A deep sigh escaped the brunette, he could finally breathe. Is that all the red celestial dragon can do? A bored Helios questioned as he was surrounded by a golden glow that quickly melted the ground where he was standing. Yes. Very conceited, but you were almost crying a year ago, the brown man murmured while repairing his balance breaker armor. He was tired, which was surprising coming from him since he was very proud of his stamina. He had barely lasted half an hour, not because he was losing, but because the damned Helios expelled a suffocating heat that extinguished the oxygen, and that's why he was tired. His muscles were recovering from the lack of oxygen, and his poor brain was the same. Come on, increase your power, use the famous ability of the red celestial dragon, Helios exclaimed, launching his aura towards the brunette who quickly turned on his thrusters and moved away from the attack. A flurry, the great flame shot out from the central gem of the armor and engulfed the Greek god. Rias. Isay seriously watched as the great hell she had created quickly dissipated and revealed an unharmed Helios. Almost, the dragon exclaimed. Isay rose higher, created a large dragon shot and fired it at the god. It's no use, a golden shield appeared on the god's left arm and with it he bounced the dragon shot. Ugh. Damn divine stove with legs, the brunette launched himself at full power against the god. The god smiled slightly, drew his sword, which was quickly surrounded by his aura, and waited for the brunette. Here a strong right hand was fired by the chestnut, a right hand that the god intercepted with his shield, creating an expansive explosion due to the force of the collision. The god carried his shield, unleashed a thrust with his sword, and cut the chestnut's armor. Isay jumped to take distance, but in mid-jump he was kicked by the god. "You was that way from a year ago, that way you don't do anything to me, and I wouldn't enjoy killing you," exclaimed the god as he slowly walked towards the chestnut tree lying a few meters away. "Critical burn and cut on the chest, immediate medical attention recommended." Isay snorted at Sia's unnecessary warning. Luckily the sword burned the wound as soon as it was done. He slowly stood up as he held his chest, he looked ahead, and the god came calmly as his aura surrounded him. "Ryag. It would be a good time for you to finish." The armor was repaired again while waiting for the god. "Come on. I can still dance." Isay motioned for him to come to the god who began to slowly run towards him. "Ryag." He received no response. "Driag." The god was already upon him, ready to cut him down. Now, the gems on the armor shone and a red aura surrounded the brunette. Free mode. Overdrive. The brunette's right arm became bigger, a propellant was turned on in the elbow of the same arm, and quickly shot at the god who was surprised by said attack, but quickly defended himself with his shield. Boom. The entire area erupted as the chestnut's blow crashed into the god's shield. The surprised Helios shot towards a building that quickly collapsed on top of him. "Ah. You were late," said the brunette as he took a breath. "Do you know what it costs to accumulate 1000 boost in something as new as free mode? There was a high probability that you would explode if I failed in the process." "Well. I trust you," said the brunette as the armor returned to normal. "That could have affected me." The god Helios emerged unharmed from under the rubble, looked at his shield, and with surprise saw that the shape of the chestnut's fist was printed on it. He looked at the brunette and opened his eyes slightly in surprise when he saw him surrounded by an intense aura. "Now that's interesting." His aura exploded and rose into the air. "Here it comes." The standard armor became thicker, and thrusters appeared on his elbows, palms, and boots. Overdrive at 80% power. With just one hit the percentage drops. "I will have to take advantage and think carefully about my next attacks." The thrusters ignited and, slower than normal, he rose to the height of the god. "What was that?" "Your aura is almost at the level of that day." "But it doesn't convey the same sensation," asked the god, seeing the 9 shape of the armor. "You're not interested," said the brunette as he launched himself at the god who shrugged his shoulders and prepared himself. "He was able to do that damage to my work. His strength is not to be underestimated." Away from the combat was an old man leaning on a cane. "That burst of aura and that shape. It's something different from the other carriers," said a curious Athena. "He's still immature. But if he continues as he is, he could be someone to fear," commented Hestia, watching how the brunette was sent flying to the ground by a blow from Helios. "There goes your work. You better improve your techniques," Hephaestus said Poseidon calmly as he watched as the brunette destroyed Helios' shield with another big punch after recovering. The blacksmith god shrugged his shoulders when he saw the battered shield. Zeus was serious watching the combat. He had come to stop the fool Helios, but his brother had told him that he wanted to see the power of the celestial dragon. Overdrive at 40%. The brunette's breathing was heavy, he was wielding a lot of power that exceeded his capacity. "Your momentum is over," Helios exclaimed as he cut the shield that the chestnut had created with his aura. The brunette did not answer and just launched himself again towards the god. The blows and thrusts came and went. Isay could barely avoid the cuts in vital areas. He did not worry about the bleeding, since the sword burned the wound as soon as it was made. "You have to take away his sword, otherwise you won't be able to hit him directly." The armor changed, it was now less thick and now it could go faster. She quickly moved away from the god, grabbed several smaller rocks and threw them at the god. "Is this a joke?" said the god, amused as he saw how the brunette threw medium-sized rocks at him. "Increscid." But the god was surprised to see how the small rocks transformed into large rocks that exceeded the size of a car. He quickly began to cut the rocks, but he did not wait for the chestnut tree to come out quickly from behind one of them and hit his wrist, thus releasing his sword. Suck it. The aura exploded around the chestnut tree. A large cannon appeared on his right arm that quickly glowed crimson. A great crimson blast here. The great crimson lightning engulfed the god that I could do nothing because of how sudden it was. Overdrive at 5%. The god began to resist the crimson shot that was gradually losing power. Not yet. 2 openings appeared on the chestnut's back, inside these were 2 gems that began to make a vacuum cleaner sound. G. All the aura he had previously released was gathered into the gems that shone brightly. Overdrive at 15%. The crimson shot gained intensity and power. The god Helios let out a scream as the shot dragged him away. He was hurting him, not badly, but he was hurting him. Reset. The armor disappeared after Sia's warning, the shot ended, and the brunette fell to his knees while he breathed heavily. "You're a disgrace." The brunette looked up tiredly at him, and there was Helios, his face burned and his armor a little broken, but practically unharmed. They tell me everything. The weather." The brunette whispered with a tired smile. The god exploded his aura, ready to eliminate the brunette who sent a challenging smile to the god that made him angrier. "It's good to die smiling." "It's over." The brunette closed his eyes waiting for the end of him. "That's enough," was heard in the area, and then a roar was heard. "Rest." It's all over. Without opening his eyes and trusting in Dryag, the brunette allowed himself to be embraced by sweet unconsciousness. Chapter 37. Start the cap. She was fascinated and very surprised. She saw it again, she saw how she once again surpassed her limit and stood up to someone much more powerful than him. She sighed as she monitored his heartbeat. Every time I love you more. With that thought and a huge smile, she went to sleep, hoping to continue seeing him in her dreams. Hyoudou Issei stood up suddenly as he felt a strange feeling, but that feeling was replaced by pain. You finally wake up. The brunette placed her hand on her chest, it hurt a lot. You used a lot of power, and the flow almost made your heart explode. A chill attacked the brunette after hearing his partner. Bless my luck. He murmured brown, his voice was rough, his throat was dry. I inform you that you were unconscious all day, the others are preparing their things to return, you better get up. Won't you tell me what happened after I fell unconscious? The brunette mentally asked as he stood up, looked at his body and saw many bandages surrounding his torso. Do you want the long or short version? You said we're about to return. For now, give me the short version and on the trip you'll tell me everything in detail. Once up, the brunette realized that all of his things were already put away. That was that Sundeer, she stayed all night taking care of you. Dryag commented when he saw how the brunette looked to see if there was something missing to keep. Now tell me. The brunette murmured, grimacing as he felt burning in his chest and forearms. You were about to be killed by Helios, but in the end you were saved by the intervention of Zeus. I don't know what they talked about since as soon as he appeared he forcibly took Helios away. I thought that was it, but then Hestia appeared and treated most of the burns you suffered. I'm still ashamed that you couldn't withstand that heat. Isay growled at the last thing the dragon said. It wasn't his fault that his body couldn't handle that amount of heat, he may be half dragon, but that doesn't mean he is completely immune to heat and fire. Back to the topic. Hestia healed most of your wounds, she told me that you are interesting, and she hopes to have a talk with you later. The brunette meditated while he was in front of the mirror in his personal bathroom. Do I catch the attention of a goddess again? About 10 minutes after Hestia healed your wounds, Griselda, Dulio and that Sundeer arrived at the scene. Hestia explained the situation of how you were ambushed by Helios, you defended yourself, and in the end Zeus intervened. Griselda looked very upset and worried that Sundeer was about to make a fuss, but Dulio was able to stop both women from saying unholy words. After a surprising apology from Hestia that Sundeer and the little angels brought you here, they were going to give you a phoenix tear, but that Sundeer he said it was a punishment for being reckless, but he still stayed all night taking care of you. Isay sighed, during the course of Dryag's story he had taken a quick shower, now he was in front of the mirror again, looking at his chest that no longer had bandages. I'm all burned. The brown man muttered, seeing that he had several burn marks on his chest and arms. He may also have some on his legs and back, but he doesn't care. That can be removed with magic. It was true, she could remove the marks with magic, she will ask Roswis when she is back in Kuo. Sighing once again, he left the bathroom, searched her suitcase for clothes, and proceeded to get dressed. Buddy. That? The brunette asked while he put on his boxers. You are not alone in the room. He was about to put on his pants, but he stopped when he heard Dryag. Isay slowly turned around, and there he saw Red Ravel, her eyes were wide open, her mouth was also open, and smoke was coming out of her head. Enjoying the view? Asked the brunette with a poker face. Damn shameless, shouted the phoenix, quickly leaving the room. Am I to blame? The brunette asked himself, putting on his pants. In his perspective, yes. Not in ours. He put on his shirt and then sighed again, now he had to go out. Oh? You were alive. Said a calm Dulio as he watched the brunette leave his room. Hello? He murmured, Brown, walking to the kitchen, he was still thirsty and hungry, very hungry. How are your burns? Griselda asked when she saw Isay in the kitchen. I will live. Isay answered as she drank a large glass of milk. We were going to remove the marks but. Griselda pointed with her gaze to a hidden Ravel who was behind the kitchen door. No problem, I plan to ask Roswis to take them off when I get back to Kuo, said Isay, while she made herself a sandwich. Speaking of going back, we will leave in a few hours, your things are already prepared, said Griselda and Isay nodded, she couldn't respond while she was still eating. Nice scandal last night. A while Dulio entered the kitchen and took a seat at the table next to Griselda. It was nice for you. Commented the brunette preparing another sandwich, his hunger still demanded food. You should be proud you were able to hold out against a divine class being without dying, that's very good for continuing to grow, said Dulio, earning an elbow from Griselda who glared at him. Proud? Well. More or less, I'm satisfied for having survived, but I know that Helios didn't use even half of his power. He played with me and only got angry when I was able to do him a minimum of damage. I still have to do stronger, said Isay seriously. He had survived thanks to his ace and resistance. If he had not had the previous fight against Loki, he was sure that he himself would now be dead at the hand of Helios before Zeus intervenes. Your power has not finished developing, there is a long time left for that, and do not forget that we have not yet explored Gabriel's ace, nor the king's piece. Dryag was right, he has not paid much attention to his ace, and the king piece, because since he obtained them he had to fight against opponents that required all his power and effort. The boosted gear is what he dominates the most, and that is why he focused on it. Now he did it more because he had to develop the F mode, and, in the words of Azazel and Sia, that mode is somewhat incomplete. There was still more room for evolution, and he had to achieve it because he knew that his luck will continue to attract more strong opponents. It will be better to train the demonic power first. It may be that the sacred power is the closest to the draconic power in terms of purity, but the demonic one is more in accordance with your feelings and personality. He recommended Dryag as Isay continued eating. Are you saying I'm someone evil? He questioned the brunette, ignoring the conversation that Dulio and Griselda were having. I'm not saying you're evil. Although that depends on each person's point of view, but this is not the time to get philosophical. What I mean by your affinity with demonic power is that it works more like draconic power, it depends on your desire and imagination. But sacred power you need to concentrate to shape it, maintain its effect and power. We both know that you are not the brightest and most focused being in the world, and that is why I tell you to start with the demonic one. I explained the dragon. Isay sighed, the dragon had a point. Rias' grimoire was uneasy. Tomorrow was the day where I would have the rating game against his cousin. He had trained a lot. She knew that her cousin wouldn't hold back and she would get very angry if she did. All her nobility was ready for tomorrow. Azazel had supervised them in training and the results were more than satisfactory. Although he would have liked Isay to train her. What is he doing? The Redide asked herself as she watched the moon from her window in the grimoire residence. Many times throughout this week she had thought about calling the brunette, but she had always stopped at the last minute. She wanted to surprise the brunette on the day of the rating game, she wanted him to see how strong she had become. She knew that her cousin was strong, there was a reason he was the strongest rookie, but she has trained like never before. The old Rias may be nervous, but the current one was excited to fight her cousin who was the strongest of her generation. Her mother makes fun of her for her new taste in fighting, she had called her a fighting princess, and Akeno, somehow, had discovered it and now called her that every time they trained. She pouted as she remembered that it wasn't her fault that she got excited about fighting, it was Isay's fault. Yes, Hyoudou Issei was to blame for that. She decided to become strong to get the brunette's attention, but they barely made any progress in their relationship. Well, it wasn't a relationship, she was just her student. Student who wants to eat her teacher but student in the end. Isay, you fool who doesn't fall for my charms. The Redide murmured. She was very conscious of her appearance. She has always had the attention of the male side and some women have also fallen for her beauty, but that incredible beauty was of no use if she could not attract the brunette. She only uses seduction. Anyone would give in to you was what her mother had told her. She didn't want to do that. She loved her mother, but she knew that seducing the brunette would be of no use. Isay has been surrounded by that Valkyrie, Dahlia, she was incredibly beautiful, and he suspected that something had happened between them. Ravel lived with him, he was used to having beautiful women around him, and he didn't tell Gabriel which one she was, in his opinion. Thoughts, the owner of the chestnut tree. That bothered her to no end. How do you want me to catch him with my beauty if he is practically used to having women more beautiful than me with him, she exclaimed as she rolled around the big bed, angry at him. Rias? The door to the room opened and Akeno Himejima peeked out. What the Redide asked angrily. And that sudden anger towards me? Asked the Grimoire Queen as she entered the room and closed the door. Ah. Sorry. I was thinking about something that made me angry, said the Redide calmer. Does that something have the name Hyoudou Issei? Akeno asked, smiling slightly. Rias nodded as he pouted. And what scenario did you invent now to get angry? The black-haired woman asked while she sat next to her king. None. For now. The Redide murmured before the amused look of her queen. And why did you bother? The black-haired woman asked. Isay is used to beautiful women. My mother told me that if I want him I must do everything to have him and use my seduction on him, but that would not work since I am not the most beautiful and attractive thing she has seen so far. I can't get over Gabriel, nor the maturity of that Dahlia, much less the charm that Ravel has. I can't even get over that fried chicken from Ravel, said the Redide, squeezing her pillow. Akeno sighed. Apparently it was motivational talk night for her friend and Ray. I'm sorry, a saddened Ravel lowered her head towards the chestnut tree. They were already on the plane where they would return to Japan. The brunette was again sitting next to the blonde phoenix, Dulio and Griselda sitting in other seats. Only them and the pilots were on the plane since it was a private one. And why? The brunette asked, looking at Ravel who was still tilting his head. I could have healed those marks with phoenix tears, but I didn't. He also apologized to me for yelling at him today when it was my fault for entering without warning, said the blonde. Ah. That. You don't need to apologize, it's not the first time that a battle has left me marked. What happened today was also partly my fault since I came out of the bathroom naked, the brunette dismissed. Let me remove the marks as compensation for my selfishness, Ravel said, raising his head and showing a look of determination in his eyes. I was planning to ask Roswis. Isay said, but Ravel glared at him. I'll do it, the blonde exclaimed, and Isay sighed. Good. Now let me sleep, I'm still tired from last night, said the brunette, settling into his seat and closing his eyes. Ravel nodded with a smile as he looked at the brunette, settled in his seat and took out his notebook. I'll get Isay Sama ready for her press round. Isay didn't know what awaited her when she arrived at her home. Chapter 38. Start the cap, starting analysis. Isay sighed as she opened her eyes, she was still on the plane heading to Japan. You're sure? Trying something like this is crazy, it wouldn't be the first crazy thing that occurs to you, but this is a delicate thing. Yes. I have to take advantage of everything within my reach. The overdrive is very limited, but for now it serves to exploit all the power available, but I prefer something else that does not endanger my dear heart. Isay sighed, he looked to the right of him, and there was a sleeping Ravel, in her hands was a notebook. Yes, it is applied. The brunette murmured while he took the notebook and closed it and then left it in the blonde's backpack. Do you have a moment? The brunette turned around and there he saw Griselda. Isay nodded, got up and followed the angel to one of the back seats. She sat next to the window, and Isay took the one that was left facing the aisle. What's going on? Isay asked curiously, he had never spoken directly to his partner, it was always with someone involved or only professionally. That's what they said at the meeting. About your hybrid status, the angel began to say seriously. That. Isay remembered the day of the meeting, the gods had indirectly revealed his angel-demon status. The brunette got up, looked at the rest of the passengers, Dulio was sleeping as was Ravel, it was just them and the pilots on the private plane. He saw the angel again and settled in the hallway, which was quite big for what he was going to do. He looked at Griselda and sighed. Odd. The angel murmured as she covered her mouth to suppress a scream. Isay had spread his wings, his angels and his demons. Griselda couldn't believe it. She had been informed that her newest companion was special in being a hybrid of a pure fallen angel, although that made no sense. But she believed it when the brunette had shown his fallen angel when he first spoke to her. When he heard the god Poseidon say that his partner had demonic power, he had many doubts, but he had left it since he was on something very important. He was going to ask him when the meeting was over, but his partner decided to leave, and then there was the incident with Helios, the brunette was unconscious, and in the end, he could not speak and clear his doubts. Now he took advantage of the fact that Ravel and Dulio were sleeping and decided to clear his doubts and the tremendous surprise he got. But I myself saw that you thought Allah was fallen. Why is he now a demon? The angel asked after a deep silence. Well. Isay put away his wings and took his seat again. I can't tell you much since I don't even know what's really going on with my situation. This was something Azazel and Ajuka Beelzebub did, they're both science nuts, and somehow they managed to fuse a demonic chess piece together. With Gabriel's ace. Since it was something that could generate a scandal in the alliance, Azazel and Ajuka decided to keep the secret of my angel-demon hybrid situation. Azazel used a rather silly but useful camouflage for the situation. Although not, it lasted a long time since in the Kyoto event, everything went to waste and the camouflage was gone. I clarified that I found out in Kyoto itself, the brunette said the little he knew, it was not exactly what Azazel had explained to him, but something he approached. I'm speechless. Said Griselda as she sank into the back of her seat. And what should I say, being the one involved? He muttered Brown. Why not tell Our Lady? She should know more than anyone as she is our direct superior, said the angel, and Isay shrugged his shoulders. No idea. I don't have enough intelligence to know what's going on in Azazel's head, much less Ajuka's, since I barely know anything about him, said the brunette. Griselda sighed. She sensed that a big headache was going to attack her because of the new information that her partner revealed to her. Things will get very ugly if this information becomes public knowledge. The angel murmured, thinking about the possibilities. We will have problems from the side of heaven and the demons. The fallen are very carefree and will not make big things about my situation, said the brunette, remembering that Azazel told him something about the issue of repercussions. Do you know what this can do to the church? Griselda asked while she denied. The situation was already tense now that the three biblical powers had signed peace. The church now had an internal problem that, in the long run, would be a bomb that could explode in their faces. I have no idea and I'm not interested, the brunette said seriously. He didn't care at all about the church, it was corrupt and had killed more than you can imagine. The Sacred Sword Project and the experiments on humans were one of the most current events that the church did to earn the chestnuts' resentment, and that culminated in what they did to Eve's relative. The church is an error that the angels should completely reform or better. Eliminated. You should be worried. You are still Mrs. Gabriel's ace, it is our duty to go to the church if she is in trouble, said the angel sternly. She didn't like the angry tone she detected in the brunette's words. But bad luck. I won't lift a finger if something happens to the church, said Isay in a serious and determined manner. How can you say that the church is an extension of heaven itself, the angel exclaimed angrily. The church will not receive any of my help because they do not deserve it, that is a whole of depraved people, rapists, murderers, corrupt people and enemies of nature, said the brunette angrily as she got up and returned to her seat. Griselda watched as the brunette walked away with surprise. She had only seen him angry the day she said she should apologize to the gods, but now she not only showed anger, but she also showed great resentment and hatred. We will descend in 10 minutes. Please take your seats and fasten your seatbelts. That was what Ravel Phoenix heard as he opened her eyes. I fell asleep. The blonde phoenix stretched while he yawned, she blinked to clarify the visit, she looked to the left of him, and there was a serious Isay while there were headphones in his ears. Isay-sama? The blonde asked as she placed her hand on the brunette's shoulder. She was curious to see him so serious since before she fell asleep he was quite calm. You woke up? Yes, you slept, said the brunette while he took off his headphones and changed his serious look. He was still angry about the last thing he said with Griselda, but he had to control himself so as not to make Ravel uncomfortable. Is something bad happening? Asked the curious blonde. No. Nothing, I was just thinking while listening to music. In a moment we land, you should fix your hair in case you want to maintain your image when we get off, the brunette said lied while he saw the blonde's disheveled hair. The blonde quickly took out a mirror and saw that his hair was a mess. She quickly pulled out a large case and this year a comb to style her hair. That's very big. Is that much makeup necessary? The brunette asked himself when he saw the blonde's large case where he could see a lot of makeup, combs and more makeup. How long did I sleep? The blonde asked as she continued arranging her hair. I think half an hour or a little more. You were already asleep when I woke up, the brunette answered, putting his cell phone in airplane mode since he saw the notice that they were about to land. How about now? Isay looked at the blonde who had already finished combing her hair. Curiosity attacked him when he saw that the blonde was now with her hair completely on the floor. It suits you. But it seems strange to me to see you without the drill pigtails, said the brunette, turning his gaze forward. Brad attacked the blonde's cheeks as she revealed a happy smile. He quickly put his things away and fastened his belt. What is Isay-san doing? Asia Argento asked while she and Irina were preparing something to eat. They were currently in the kitchen of the Gremory residence. The rating game would be that day and would start at 10 p.m, currently it was 3:30 p.m, and they were preparing something to eat for Zenobia since she didn't know how to cook decently. She asked me the same thing. Irina murmured as she helped the blonde. She wanted to go with her friend and crush, but her leader, Michael, asked her to stay in Kuo to continue strengthening relationships with the young demons. I hope that blonde fried chicken doesn't try to do something with my Isay-kun. The knife that was currently in the brunette's hand was bent very easily by the angel's grip. Irina-san. You already left us without 14 knives this week, said Asia as she sighed. Her friend Angel always broke something when she was thinking, and that had happened a lot at meals. Ah. I'm sorry, the angel exclaimed as she tried to fix the knife to its original shape. Asia-senpai, your pet has stolen my dessert, a stoic but visibly upset Kaneko entered the kitchen. Rai-kun. Asia murmured as she sighed and headed to the living room. What if that fried chicken corrupts my Isay-kun? He is pure. Well, half pure and someone pure like him can fall into the dirty hands of that fried chicken. In Irina's imagination she could see how her beloved Isay-kun was hugged by Ravel who smiled evilly and then brought her face closer to the chestnut man's. "Nu, I'll save you, Isay-kun," Irina exclaimed as she ran out of the kitchen. Kaneko had seen everything with his typical poker face, sighed and continued the food they had left half done. A chill attacked the brunette as he sat in the taxi that was taking him and Ravel to his house. They had separated from Dulio and Griselda when they got off the plane, both angels had to quickly return to heaven to report. Isay didn't know if Griselda was going to keep the secret of her angel-demon situation, but it's not like he cares much about her anymore. Is something bad happening? Ravel asked, having seen the chill that attacked Isay. I have a feeling that I won't have a peaceful day. Commented the brunette looking out the window. I'm back, the brown man exclaimed from the entrance to his house. They had already arrived at the Hyoudou residence. Next to the brunette was Ravel, who was nervous because she would meet the brunette's parents, the last time she couldn't meet them because she only came on the day of the meeting notice and when they left. Welcome, a smiling Yumi Hyoudou came out of the kitchen to greet her son. Could it be that I heard Isay? Isay looked up and Roswis was looking out on the stairs. It's your imagination, the brunette said gracefully as he received his mother's hug. Roswis smiled and quickly went down. It was strange to see the Valkyrie outside of her teacher of Valkyrie outfit. Now the albino was wearing jean shorts that showed off her long white legs. She was also wearing a tank top that highlighted her voluminous chest and showed off her wide arms and shoulders. As additional information, the Valkyrie was barefoot. I'm glad you're okay. Mom had told me about your problem with the Greeks, Roswis said as he sighed. Isay's mouth was open at the amused look of her mother. Ice-chan was speechless. I told you he would like it, said Yumi, making the Valkyrie blush and bringing Issei out of his visual shock. What? Ah. Well. You look good, said Isay, regaining control of himself. Rosswas smiled wider as she saw how a small blush appeared on the brunette's cheeks. First attack. Chibi Yumi jumped with happiness when she saw her son's reaction. Or yes, this was her master's plan that would bring her beautiful grandchildren. Mom Yumi came out of her evil thoughts when she was called by her son. This is Ravel Phoenix, my friend and secretary, said Isay pointing at the blonde. Ravel, a little happy with how the brunette considered her, made her smile the best she could to have a good first impression of the brunette's mother. My pleasure. I am Isay-sama's secretary, they gave me that task to support and advise him on social issues. The Phoenix introduced herself. Ara. How cute, nice to meet you, I'm Yumi Hyoudou. I hope my silly son hasn't behaved badly with you, said Yumi, taking the blonde's hands. He is a disrespectful, uneducated and shameless man, but I will do my best to turn him into a true man of good and etiquette, exclaimed the blonde, feeling safe under the protection of the older brunette. But man. What is that Sundeer talking about? We are both demons. Well, I am half demon, but I mostly represent sin and desire, Isay mentally complained at Ravel's words. The strong Yumi gave the blonde the thumbs up as she hugged her. Where is dad? Isay asked as she sighed. Working. He was promoted thanks to the recommendation of Rias-chan's father, said the older brunette. That's good. Isay said, smiling slightly, but inside she thought that Ria's father was a nosy. Isay-kun, a well-known cry was heard. The brunette turned towards the door that had been left open and saw that an excited Irina was running from the Gremory residence. And there goes my peace of mind, whispered the brunette, preparing to avoid the brunette with pigtails. We finally meet again. Irina jumped towards Isay, who quickly dodged him, causing the angel to hug Rosswas. You're softer, said the angel, rubbing her face on the albino's chest. It's because it's not me. The angel opened her eyes and saw that she was hugging her teacher, who was frowning. Miss Hyoudou, said the albino seriously, entering into her serious teacher role. I am sorry. The angel apologized sadly. You should put that energy into your studies. I've heard other teachers complain about their lack of attention and energy in their respective subjects, said Rosswas, crossing her arms under her chest, earning the attention of a certain brunette. Rosswas is bigger compared to Dahlia, the brunette said with a critical eye as he watched Rosswas scold Irina. Evaluating the terrain, the dragon asked internally, denying when he saw how his partner became serious and calculating with something like feminine attributes. They must be more elastic than her mother's, but Dahlia wins in firmness. Isay remembered his act from a year ago when Dahlia had gotten into the bathroom with him. You better control yourself or you'll go back to those days of yesteryear, she warned the dragon, making Isay sigh. She couldn't help it, old tricks always stay with you. Luo Isay-kun, Irina complained, already in front of the brunette, pouting. Hello, the brunette greeted calmly, internally nervous remembering what happened to her the day before going to Greece. You didn't send me any message, exclaimed the brunette with pigtails. You never gave me your number, said the brunette, making the angel stay silent for a moment and then extend her hand. What? The brunette asked when he saw the brunette's hand. Your cell phone, said the angel, motioning with her hand for me to give her the cell phone. Isay sighed and took out her cell phone. Irina grabbed it immediately and started to type. Yumi smiled as she watched the interaction between the teenagers and the young adult. She really liked that her son is interacting more with young people her age, and she is not with that serious and lonely look that she had when she returned from her training trip. Rias-chan, Dahlia-san, Irina-chan, Rosswas-chan, and now there is also Ravel-chan. Who will win? Yumi wondered, smiling amusedly. Her son was surrounded by young people her age, but all female. She does not complain, with that the expectations and wishes of her grandchildren would be fulfilled very quickly. What she is worried about is that her son is not showing much interest, or if she does, she hides it very well. You faced another god, Irina exclaimed after listening to the talk between Isay and Rosswas. Isay just shrugged as she listened to the angel's questions. Rosswas was also surprised and a little worried about the repercussions that she could create, but she calmed down when she heard from the brunette that Olympus had apologized on behalf of Hestia, and she knew that the alliance would not complain since no one died and she could disguise herself as a friendly meeting. What if we drink something? Yumi asked, approaching the young people. She had not heard Irina's scream since she was in her thoughts. I'll take the things up and go, said Isay, taking the things from her and then went up the stairs. I must talk to Isay-sama about something, Ravel exclaimed, quickly going up the stairs. I'll help you, said Rosswas, walking towards the kitchen. Are you joining? Yumi asked a serious Irina, who saw the staircase. Yes. I'll stay, answered the angel, walking towards the kitchen with Yumi. How strange that your mother was not excited by your fight with Helios, Rias commented as Isay put her things away where they were before leaving for Greece. I saw her very thoughtful, said the brunette, connecting his cell phone. By the way, your cattle got together, the dragon said in a funny way. I don't know what you mean, said the brunette, ignoring him. Come on, stop playing dumb. We both know that of all the women below, except your mother, are interested in you, and you also have that interest, but so far the one who wins is the Valkyrie and a little bit the angel. The dragon said, snorting because his companion was not honest. Age is affecting you? He murmured. Brown. Impertinent brat, the dragon complained. Issei-sama. The brunette heard his name on the other side of the door. Yes? Asked the brunette. Can I come in? Was heard again from the other side. Come in, said the brunette, and the door opened, revealing a nervous Ravel. Is something wrong? The brunette asked, seeing the blonde's obvious nervousness. Not wounds. The blonde murmured so quietly that the brunette's feelings barely heard anything. Speak louder, said the brunette, paying more attention to the blonde, who took a breath and. Let me heal your wounds, shouted the red blonde. It was that. Isay remembered that her secretary wanted to heal her burns as compensation for not healing him earlier with phoenix tears. Are you sure you can do it? I know you have talent, but the magic you needed is very advanced and complicated, asked the brunette. I was trained during the time you were in rehabilitation and on your school trip. I have the necessary knowledge to remove those marks, and it is my responsibility, the blonde said quickly. Okay. And how do we do it? The brunette asked, not very sure, but he would give him the benefit of the doubt. Nothing more strange could happen to him. Take off all your clothes but leave your underwear. The blonde said nervously. Without much trouble, the brunette took off his shoes, pants and shirt, leaving him with his boxers. Controlling her blush and imagination, the blonde phoenix looked over the brunette's entire body, seeing that there were burn marks almost all over his chest, as well as on his arms and legs. Don't get me wrong. The blonde warned as she unzipped her dress and took it off to be left in her underwear. Isay had a poker face on, but internally her alarms were going off. Red alert hormones activated and ready to go out of control. Rias said as she laughed so cutely. Yes, they are big. What's up with those breasts? Kaneko must hate her. Isay couldn't help but compare with the other demon in the city. Both of the same age but completely different physically. See, can you go to bed? The blonde asked, pointing to the brunette's bed. And Isay in automatic mode laid down on his back. He shouldn't be like this. He had spent 2 years sleeping with Eve completely naked, and his girlfriend was far superior to Ravel, but he was shocked because his brain was trying to find the relationship of healing magic to the issue of being naked. Excuse me. Ravel climbed onto the bed and, shyly, hugged the brunette. The blonde clung as much as possible to the brunette's body. I'm not an expert in healing magic, but I've never seen someone cure someone this way. The brown man murmured without moving a muscle, so as not to make the blonde more uncomfortable. Physical contact is necessary. By making contact I can transfer my regeneration to heal any wound. The blonde explained in summary, while yellow flames began to surround both young people. Interesting. Isay felt how the burned areas on his body were disappearing, as well as the pain in his right arm. A peculiar but very effective form of healing, Rias said. This is one of the ways to use the power of the phoenix. Be flattered to witness its great power, Ravel spoke proudly as the flames slowly disappeared. Quite interesting. You have a point this time. Good handling in your power, chick, the brunette complimented. But Sundeer had earned it. The healing was over and Isay waited for the blonde to release him, but he didn't move. How do you feel? The blonde asked nervously. I feel good. The pain in my arm disappeared and I think all the marks are gone. I also feel that the fatigue I had is gone a little. Answered the brunette. I'm glad. Ravel said as he breathed a sigh of relief. He slowly stopped hugging the brunette and got out of bed. Isay also stood up and proceeded to put on his pants so as not to continue embarrassing the blonde. Isay-sama, Ravel called the brunette, who turned to see her. The blonde was still in her underwear. Put your clothes on. Remember that there are people downstairs and they may come up because we're not taking long, said the brunette, turning around to give the blonde privacy. Am I pretty? Isay stopped his movements upon hearing the question. And that question? The brunette asked, still without turning around. Well. She hasn't shown any reaction to being next to a half-naked girl. I know I can't compare myself to other more mature girls, but I'm proud of my body, said the blonde, going around the bed to stand in front of the brunette. You're beautiful. You should be very clear about that, the brunette said, looking directly into the blonde's eyes. He blushed a lot when he heard those words from the brunette. And? Why did hers? Didn't react. The blonde said nervously, subtly pointing to the brunette's crotch. Well. It takes more to wake up the mini-me, said the brunette, putting on his shirt and then sitting on the bed to put on his shoes. Something like. It's. Ravel was going to move her arms towards the clasp that held her bra, but she was surprised by the brunette, who quickly stopped her. Ravel. You better not do it or something really bad could happen. The brunette's eyes were shining slightly in a dark emerald color. He was holding back a lot. His dragonic and demonic instincts were trying to take control and make him do something crazy, but the angelic side of him was resisting. And? If I wanted that something to happen? The blonde asked without looking away from the brunette's eyes. Issei's eyes shone brighter as an amused smile appeared on her face. The brunette took the blonde by her chin to look at her better. That look. No fear or resistance. She was just looking at him challengingly, she was challenging him. Partner. Issei quickly closed her eyes and walked away from the blonde. Almost. Good try, said the brunette after letting out a long sigh. So it's true. The blonde whispered with a victorious smile. Who told you? Asked the brunette, throwing the dress towards the blonde who caught it and proceeded to put it on. Mr. Tan the Phoenix said simply with her dress on. The Dragon King. He murmured Brown. That's right. During the time I was training in my territory, Mr. Tannen appeared with the request to talk to me. It seemed strange to me, but he told me that he came to give me some advice about dragons at the request of Mr. Lucifer, said the blonde. In a calm manner. Damn siskin. He muttered angrily. It was very interesting since I learned how to treat it. I didn't try it until now because we were in the company of Mrs. Griselda and Mr. Dulio, apart from the fact that we were in another territory, now I wanted to do the test since we are in the safety of Kuo and in your house. Mr. Tannen's teachings were to deal better with you, since it is known that the boosted gear partially changes the host, apart from the fact that Mr. Azazel said that you were mostly trained by Mr. Dryag, that is why they sent Mr. Tannen with me, since I will be the one who spends the most time with you, the blonde explained calmly under the attentive gaze of the brunette. And that attitude of nervousness and shyness was to see my reactions. The brunette asked, making the blonde smile. I'm a demon. With those simple words, the blonde proceeded to leave the room. The unfortunate woman acts well. I like it will be interesting from now on, ha 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 ha. Dryag was having a lot of fun. Well, the chestnut. And I was trying to be considerate. Damn dwarf, the brown man exclaimed. He needed a cold shower. The damned Sundeer had played with him. Special. Juggernaut Drive and Valkyrie. Part 1. Start the cap. How dare you leave me alone? Hyoudou Issei sighed as she heard her friend scream from her cell phone. Don't leave you alone, you have your guards, and you are strong enough to protect yourself, said the brunette, although he knew that he was not going to calm her down with that. I don't mind, you said you were going to stay the rest of the month. Himejima approached. Dryag felt semi-divine beings watching my movements, he couldn't risk unleashing a battle with you nearby. Said the brunette while he still continued on his way. It had already been 3 months since the fateful death of Evelyn Lyabov. Long months in which his depression was difficult to cure. It was difficult, especially because every time she slept he saw her in her dreams or nightmares due to the influence of the boosted gear curse. Suzaku was kind enough to help him. Himejima had felt very bad about the loss of her friend, she had not spoken much with the brunette's girlfriend, and they did not get along very well, since Evelyn believed that she would steal the brunette, but she still helped her friend cope with his loss. During those 3 months the brunette received the help of his friend. The Himejima had given him temporary shelter in one of the Himejima grounds, hidden from the current clan leader. Suzaku helped her get out of the depression she was sinking into, Elsha and Belzard also helped, plus the blonde who was closest to Isay. The first month was difficult as Suzaku wouldn't let go of him, she calmed him down when she had nightmares about her or put up with him when she was in a bad mood, she even went against her family's orders to support him. In the second month, with a calmer Isay, she began the topic of the curse. Suzaku was a priestess, one of her roles was to purify things like that, and Isay believed that her friend could help him with her problem. The Himejima took on the task of studying the curse of the boosted gear. It was difficult and dangerous, in the end she came to the conclusion that she had to use a very risky purification method. Said method was to purify the darkness of the fragments of the souls of the bearers who fell into ruin. After the purification, the brunette had to talk to his predecessors. The first time they didn't even listen to him, the second time they responded, but in a hostile way, and the third. There he made a breakthrough since he had gotten angry and yelled at the others. 4 wins. In the end he was left in a truce by the chestnut and his predecessors. The former bearers let the brunette sleep and Isay had to minimally control the Juggernaut drive to get help from his predecessors. Dryag, Elsha and Belzard knew it was a trap and told Isay. The brunette decided to take a risk and use the Juggernaut drive again if he could demonstrate his determination. He did not like being challenged, and he would show those idiotic predecessors who Hyoudou Issei was. That's why now he himself was distancing himself from his friend, he had the goal of training the Juggernaut drive, and he couldn't risk hurting someone. He would have liked to do it in the dimensional gap, but the only one who could help him go to that place was Arthur with the help of Caliburn. He had the idea to call his friend again, but he decided to tackle this problem alone with the help of Dryag, Elsha and Belzard. Still. You shouldn't go alone. You're just recovering. Imajima's voice calmed down a little, showing concern for the brunette. I'm fine. I really appreciate your help and you know that you can ask me anything, but I must solve this issue immediately, said the chestnut-haired man, going into a forest. It was already getting dark and he had to establish a place to sleep. What if I ask you to come back? Imajima asked although she knew the answer. It will be when the Juggernaut masters. Apart from the fact that I am taking you away from your duties, and I know how important your objective is, said the brunette while he nodded when he saw a good place to pitch his tent. You're a bad man making a lady worry. You better survive. Suzaku exclaimed, cutting off her call, making Issei sigh. She was in for a big blow when he sees her again. It would be better to prepare things. He muttered Brown. Hold on. Just a little longer. Issei roared, trying not to succumb to the power. It had been 3 weeks since he settled in that forest a little far from the border of Greece. The brunette had started training him with the Juggernaut on the 6th day of his arrival. Before entering the Juggernaut he had to finish controlling the balance breaker. It took him almost a week, but in the end he was able to do it, and now the countdown was 0, and he could enter the balance breaker instantly. After a day of rest he proceeded to start the Juggernaut. It was the first time that he was going to enter voluntarily. The first days were just having to endure the power of ignition as soon as the song ended. Elsha and Belzerd were in charge of monitoring the bearers who still possessed the curse. They could not do anything, but they would give a quick warning to Dryag, who could stop the flow of power for a moment so that Issei could leave the Juggernaut. Obviously that depended on the willpower of the chestnut tree. Come on Issei. You can. Elsha was giving moral support to the brunette who was currently in a half-Juggernaut drive. The transformation process was going little by little. They couldn't do it all at once because the power that was released was enormous. A little more. Issei's voice was distorted, but she was still conscious. The chestnut's aura continued to increase slowly. It was almost halfway through the transformation process. Come on brat. Belzerd took his students seriously. It was the first time a bearer had gone this far, and he wouldn't like to see the brat he accepted as a student fall under the influence of the curse's power. I laughed at infinity and I despise sleep. The brunette continued the song while the power continued to increase. In that part the voices of the former bearers should be heard, but for now they kept their word of not intervening. I will become the red dragon of domination. The chestnut tree song continued and little by little he felt how his conscience wanted to give way. The transformation was almost complete, there was just a little more left for the chestnut tree's first success. The Juggernaut Drive Dryag and Issei said together, and the Juggernaut Drive's aura was fully unleashed. The loud sound was heard through the forest, as well as a strong tremor was felt. Luckily there was a barrier previously erected by Isay, and no ordinary human could enter. Brat? Belzerd asked seriously. I'm okay. He answered the brunette slowly. He didn't trust his voice to speak, and that's why he answered mentally. Elsha covered her mouth so that the cry of surprise and happiness that she felt when she saw for the first time how Wielder did not succumb to power could not be heard. His vitality is not yet absorbed. But his stamina is decaying very rapidly. Dryag was completely attentive to the changes of his companion. Can you move? Belzerd asked a brunette who tried to move, but immediately the Juggernaut disappeared, causing the brunette to fall unconscious. It won't be that easy for you. The predecessors who still held a bit of the curse spoke together. Just 4 seconds. Dryag murmured. There was some sort of countdown on the boosted gear gem, and that seemed like how long his companion on the Juggernaut could last before he drained his vitality. For the battle it will be useless. He can withstand the entire chant, but the charge he receives will knock him unconscious before he can move. Belzerd said as he let out a breath that he didn't know he was holding. But it's progress. Elsha said, now calmer, seeing the unconscious brown man from mental space. It hurts everything, murmured a newly awakened Issei. A mouse appeared in Issei's sight, it was Tynged. The mouse brought you to your tent just before it gets dark, Dryag said. Several hours after his companion fell unconscious, the mouse Tynged appeared and helped the brunette. I thought that you would stay with Suzaku, Issei said slowly. He barely had the energy to keep his eyes open and didn't even try to move. Tynged began to make signs, and Issei understood that Suzaku sent him with him to support him. Thank you. The brown man murmured, closing his eyes and embracing unconsciousness again. The mouse sighed and simply jumped onto a small blanket to sleep too. He had had a long time trying to find the brunette, and he was tired too. Well, let's try one more time, said the brunette, walking away from the camp under the watchful eye of Tynged. A new week began. It took the brunette 3 days to recover from his first attempt to control the Juggernaut drive. On the first day he couldn't move, but spoke normally. On the second he could move, but not so much because his muscles were screaming in pain. On the third day it seemed everything returned to normal. He thanks his resistance if he didn't have to stay in bed for a few weeks. You should wait one more day to be sure, Elsha said with concern. I'm fine, said the brunette, preparing to start the song. Already? Remember, slow and sure, Dryag said, getting ready to examine and stop the brunette in case he got out of control. Here we go. Issei took a long sigh, and his expression changed to one of extreme seriousness. I, the one who will awaken. The chant began the instant the balance breaker armor made its appearance. I am the heavenly dragon who steals the principles of God's domination, he chanted again as his aura soared and the gems on the armor shone brightly. I laughed at infinity and I despised sleep. The chestnut began to gain size while the armor began to change. I will become the red dragon of domination. The entire place began to shake as the transformation came to an end just like the chant. The Juggernaut drive there you are. A smile formed on his face when he saw the column of aura in the distance. Let's go, he exclaimed while a whip of fire formed in his hands and with it, he hit some horses that were pulling the carriage where he was. This is bad. Rias said, only audible to Elsha and Belzerd. What's going on? Something wrong with Isay? Elsha asked, worried. The divine class being is approaching. Both strongest wielders put on serious faces. That was very bad, and even more so in the situation Isay found himself in. We will see the potential of the current carrier. The former bearers said collectively as they stood up. That alarmed Elsha and Belzerd, but their attention was caught by Isay's growls. It was Hyoudou Heavenly Emperor Dragon. A man looked calmly from his carriage at Isay, who fixed his gaze on him. You better stay away. The imposing voice of the red celestial dragon was heard, making the man laugh. And miss my first fight with a dragon, and even more so celestial. Is it possible that I won't? The man carried a large ball of fire and threw it at Isay, who let out a great roar, creating a moment of red power that was shot out. Towards the man's attack. Destroy. Kill. Ruin. Kill. Isay, controlled by the rage of the curse, rushed towards the man at divine speed. The man was surprised by the speed and quickly went to order his horses to move, but he misjudged Isay's distance and quickly his carriage was rammed. Disgraceful, the man exclaimed angrily when he saw how his legendary carriage was destroyed with great ease by the dragon's attack. Final warning, Rias exclaimed to the man who looked at Isay with displeasure and increased his aura. I am a main god of Olympus, the god of the sun, Helios, and this day letters before my power, he exclaimed. Now Hermes materialized a sword and a shield. Insect. Isay growled, launching himself at the god with his jaws open ready to bite. Don't underestimate me, Helios exclaimed, throwing his aura of heat at the dragon, but it didn't even flinch and continued advancing towards him. The god was surprised by the sudden surges that he could not see in the thrusts of the dragon's pointed wings. By instinct he was able to move his shield and withstand the biggest blows, but he could not avoid the cuts on his arms, legs and part of his left side. And it hurt me. The god wondered, alarmed, when he saw how blood came out of the cuts he received. Isay, I know you can still hear me. Don't prolong the battle, your vitality will begin to be drained if you do not leave the Juggernaut, Rias exclaimed. He knew that Isay was still listening to him because the attacks he was doing had been coordinated, and that showed some awareness on the brunette's part. Damn dragon, don't think that with that miserable attack you can win. The god began to use his maximum power against Isay. Those attacks he received had told him that he couldn't play with the dragon. Helios launched himself towards the chestnut tree at divine speed, and we made a large cut to the dragon's chest that he growled angrily. The more increases were heard, and that surprised the god more. The legends are true. You can increase your power whenever you want. He doesn't underestimate you. Helios couldn't finish speaking when he was suddenly caught by the dragon's jaws. The sun god let out a loud scream as he was pierced by the dragon's large teeth. The dragon exclaimed, releasing the god and shooting a great beam of power towards Helios that I could do nothing to avoid. An atomic great explosion absorbed the god as the dragon roared victoriously. Now DDRIAG, Elsha exclaimed, and the dragon didn't wait another second. Isay began to grunt in pain as he began to shrink. Ichmeru, Rias shouted, and immediately the mouse appeared in front of Isay. In its paws there were talismans with different seals that quickly shone, and from these came crimson chains that wrapped the chestnut tree. GRR. The armor disappeared and revealed the extremely injured brunette. A large cut that would not stop bleeding crossed his chest, very important burns all over his body, and it seemed that his right arm was broken. Ichmeru quickly approached the brunette, a magic circle appeared and transported them both. He had not set a destination because of the rapidity of innovation, but what mattered was getting away from the place. Damn heavenly dragon, exclaimed a wounded Helios when he saw how his opponent had escaped. He had never been so humiliated. Isay was breathing rapidly because of all the wounds he had. Worried, Ichmeru tried to stop the chestnut's bleeding, but he did not have enough level to heal damage of such magnitude. Be calm. I'll be fine. He muttered as brown as he could as his vision began to blur. The last thing he saw was someone quickly approaching him. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.